With everyone's extremely contagious high hopes for Warner Bros.' upcoming Gotham Knights, and my lack of finding any kind of real satisfaction with anything else out right now, I recently decided to revisit one of my favorite games of all time, Batman Arkham Knight. And while it wasn't particularly perfect for most people, I mean it was for me, it had some major plot holes in the story, the addition of the long requested Batmobile that then overstayed its welcome and caused many people to then hate the very thing they wanted the most, with it being overused in some places and in one particular fight being a replacement for what was a giant missed opportunity. Then you have the fact that the PC port of this game was as consistent as YouTube's guidelines. For the first few months after release, the frame rate was utter shit, constantly crashing or being downright unplayable for most people, which let me just say, it's much better now. All the footage you're seeing is captured at 4K with the game staying mostly steady at around the 90 FPS mark with occasional dips, so it's much better now. But needless to say, the game had a few things going against it at launch. And with it being the last Arkham game with Rocksteady's name on it, the last one they were going to develop, it was really meant to be a love letter. Final send-off of the series and a thank you for the longtime fans. For some, it just unfortunately didn't hit that monumental mark, something that would have been a perfect ending to an otherwise flawless series. Now look, I don't want this to be a video on what the game did wrong or catching up on everything going on with it at the time, because to be completely honest with you, I gave zero fucks. I just wanted to be the angry rich kid with an oversized trust fund and the unrestrained freedom of indiscriminately handing out concussions and broken limbs, with the only shield from any kind of reprimand being, I don't kill. Which he doesn't. I mean, sure, he comes awfully close in many instances and even has one of the sickest threats of killing Penguin at one point.
Your choice, Cobblepot. GCPD or the morgue.
Empty threats, Batman. We all know you don't kill.
I'm not feeling myself tonight.
Well, I'm sure you feel better tomorrow. Good night's Kip can do wonders, mate.
Alright, that sounds as threatening as walking up to Jimmy and asking if he wants a knuckle sandwich. It's much better when you know the story, which bear with me here. The main plot of the game takes place on the night of Halloween. Scarecrow manages to get the entire city of Gotham to evacuate after he's released a small amount of his new fear toxin inside of a diner. An event you witness firsthand through the eyes of a police officer, and fun fact, if you choose to shoot or not to shoot, your actions are later referenced inside GCPD by the police officers overlooking the officer that freaked out.
Yep, poor bastard. He ain't gonna be able to live with himself when he finds out what he did in that diner.
He's gonna lose his badge for sure.
Pretty cool. With most of Gotham's residents now gone, the city descends into chaos with criminals free to do as much looting and vandalizing as they please. Then you have iconic criminals like Two-Face hitting the major banks of Gotham, Penguin supplying guns to Bloodhaven, Firefly targeting all the fire stations, Riddler forcing you to be a part of all his dumbass trials in order to save Catwoman. Then after collecting all of his stupider trophies, are you then finally able to fight him? I'll say it right now, I'm not a fan of puzzles in video games. Riddler's fucking stupid. Then you have Professor Pig creating literal zombies out of perfection, while killing and putting on display those that weren't able to be made perfect. But look, that's actually all side shit. It's not just dumped on you like I just did it there. It's gradually revealed as you go through the game's main story. And your main purpose here is to deal with Scarecrow, who early on in the game you find out is using the Ace Chemicals facility to build a chemical bomb large enough to cover the entire East Coast. At least I think. I don't remember how big the threat was, but I remember it being fucking huge. While heading into the Ace Chemicals, you're confronted by the Arkham Knight, a new villain and obviously someone with a vendetta that's working with Scarecrow to be able to finally kill Batman. It's also here at Ace Chemicals that the other subplot of the game starts. You see, once inside the facility while trying to reduce the size of the chemical bomb that Scarecrow is manufacturing, Batman is exposed to Scarecrow's fear toxin. This in turn starts triggering hallucinations of the Joker, who's been dead for over 9 months. The reason why Batman is seeing Joker is because in the previous game, Batman was contaminated with some of Joker's blood.
Take my blood, for example.
I wish somebody would.
This stuff is killing me.
Why should I care?
Because now, there's a teeny little bit of me in you too, Bats. Oh, come on.
And to make everything a bit more simpler to understand, through a mutation in Joker's blood, those that were contaminated, 4 other people besides Batman himself, are slowly turning into him. And for those of you that failed your first grade genetics class, as we all know, when you start to turn into someone else, you also start to adopt their mannerisms, personality, hairstyle, sense of humor, and last but not least, their memories. And that's all in despite of you never even meeting the person. Gotta thank Rocksteady for spoon-feeding us that basic knowledge, huh? I'm getting ahead of myself. With this initial exposure to the fear toxin for pretty much the rest of the game, Batman is constantly seeing and hearing the Joker, with his appearance being very seamless and very much welcomed.
Still trying to preserve the balance of justice, eh, Batman? Impossible! All the crimes you missed while capturing us.
So how's it hanging, Harv? Color me insensitive, but I've always wanted to ask, did everything get split down the middle?
I personally enjoyed every time he popped up, and I can't imagine this game not having a minute. I would even say for me personally, he stole the show. I know he wasn't the main villain, and with him being dead, the whole premise of fighting him in this game is just Batman's personal struggle to not descend into madness via the fear toxin, which adds a whole other layer of the amount of how fucked up it is he's beating down people in the street with his bare hands, while in the middle of tracking down Scarecrow, trying to save Barbara Gordon from him, which that death of Barbara to this day is extremely shocking.
We both know fear is theatrics, Batman, so permit me the indulgence of putting on this show.
Ooh, maybe I got bag-faced wrong. Oh, here comes the toxin. I can practically taste it.
What's happening?
Barbara!
Yes, you see it now. The horror behind the glass.
No.
The monster that will be your end. Unless you pick up that gun and deny him.
No.
Don't listen!
Please, no!
Barbara, it's me! Your friend.
You won't get me. I won't let you get me.
While neutralizing the threat of the cloudburst with the help of Poison Ivy that ends up covering the entire city of Gotham with Scarecrow's fear toxin, and then seeing her entire DNA Thanos snapped back to the literal dirt she so worshipped, it was a highlight. And seeing Scarecrow throw Barbara off the side of a building after discovering she's actually still alive, and the whole offing herself was a side effect of getting hit once more by Scarecrow's fear toxin, that was a little bit of a mindfuck. But in spite of Scarecrow and even the Arkham Knight having their high points, which they certainly did, Joker's my highlight. I just love the subplot of Joker more, especially the scenes of him shooting Barbara, who, fun fact, in the flashback is actually wearing a hat that says flashback, or the foreshadowing of the Arkham Knight actually being Jason Todd, who was left by Batman to be Joker's personal practice dummy. I get it, these cutscenes don't make any sense, and some have even argued that it's ruined the eventual reveal of who the Arkham Knight truly was in the end, but through the world and the interactions between the two of them, you see a bit of Batman's mental state, and Rocksteady even starts showing this as early as that initial exposure. When you're out in the world, if you pay close attention to billboards, they'll start changing, going from what they were normally meant to be, only for you to look away, look back, and see it has some Joker iteration of it. Or you'll see a group of thugs walking down the street and Joker's walking with them. Take this in hand with the cutscenes where Batman starts hallucinating and Joker's the literal devil on his shoulders trying to get him to let in and give him the driver's seat, so to speak, and it shows the constant struggle the two of them are in throughout the game. The potency of the toxin and just how deep Batman's fear of letting his biggest rival be reborn through him is just not an option. There's a great piece done by Nightwing01 that explains the ending between both the Joker and Batman of this game really well, so I'd recommend checking his video out on it as it provides a very interesting perspective. But the basic rundown here is, at the end of the game, Scarecrow and masked Batman, for all to see their symbol of hope, be brought down before them, unmasked and exposed to his toxin, being afraid, being human. However, with Batman fighting off Joker this whole time, this dose does nothing but help the Joker take over.
Every scream, every death, vengeance for all that Batman has done.
Good.
What? Do you not understand? It is over.
Get ready for the encore.
Why aren't you scared?
The second dose technically being injected inside the Joker and not Bruce, with Joker mistakenly believing he's toxin-proof. We go through the mind of Joker and his biggest fears, which are being forgotten, and the idea of Batman being the legend that he is, with Joker then giving into his fears in the symbol of Batman, a legend that transcends the humanity within that was embodied by Bruce, coming triumphant.
Oh, you almost had me scared back there. Me? What have I got to be afraid of?
Afraid of being ashes. You're afraid of being forgotten. And you will be forgotten, Joker. Because of me.
I think Rocksteady handled the story pretty damn well for all the villains they tried to incorporate into the game. I do wish some of them had more to it though. Two-Face was able to be taken down just like any other enemy. Penguin I'm not really angry about, since the dual takedowns and the chemistry between Nightwing and Batman are both entertaining as hell to watch and listen to.
Good news. I found Penguin. He's right where we want him. Cocky little bastard.
And seeing Azrael step up to try and be Batman's successor after tonight, and then having the choice of him either trying to kill Batman or heading back to the Order of Saint-Dumas to fight his programming to kill Batman, with that decision ultimately sitting on your shoulders, was a nice detour. I would personally say his arc and Professor Pig's arc being the more interesting ones to me. The biggest letdown in side content though, by far, has to be when the Arkham Knight steps down as the one leading the militia and Deathstroke takes over. You see, in this story, once the Arkham Knight's identity is finally revealed to you to be Jason Todd, he pretty much vanishes, and it's now Deathstroke that starts taunting you as you start to take out the militia. With Deathstroke being the head of the militia now, it's a nice surprising twist, especially your first playthrough. As you start taking down more and more militia checkpoints, watchtowers, and mines, you start receiving more taunts from him, indicating a final showdown of some type between the two of you. All this work is slowly dismantling the militia's grip on Gotham to be confronted with a badass showdown with Deathstroke. Fuck yeah! Only it's not that at all. Nowhere near close to it. It's just a shitty tank battle between the two of you. At this point, you might as well give me a generic militia general to just lead the militia and not stomp on my hopes and dreams, hoping for something greater. I mean, who thought this was a good idea? Doing it the first time with the Cloudburst was a slap in the face, but a second time as a quote-unquote fight with Deathstroke is just salt in the wound. Thankfully, besides this and the fact Riddler trophies are required for the true final ending, I have no real complaints with this. The game story-wise holds up. Graphically, over 5 years later, still looks beautiful, and I'd say the combat is just so damn smooth. As someone who's played the other major superhero games that are sadly Sony exclusives, I mean, those games' combat feel incredible, don't get me wrong. It's just going from both Spider-Man's back to the Arkham games, the Arkham Knight's combat somehow manages to feel a little bit smoother. It's almost like the years of refinement by Rocksteady really shows here. And many years later, I'm finding more depth to it. Before, I usually just stick to countering and beating everyone down with my bare hands, only occasionally grabbing a weapon or using the environmental takedowns, giving very little thought to the gadgets in Batman's arsenal beyond just throwing a batarang here or there to stop those charging at me. But I find myself incorporating the Batclaw more often, using some of the cryo grenades or even the explosive gel. The amount of depth here in hindsight is quite surprising. I'm sure there's an incredible amount of combos and gadgets that you can mix and match to provide a fairly sized catalog of movesets to keep the fighting from going stale for a fairly long time. And with the combat feeling so damn good, a story that provides a decent mindfuck or a jump scare from time to time.
The look on your face when you saw him. Who'd have thought? The big bad Batman, scared of his own reflection.
I highly recommend revisiting the Arkham Knight, or even playing it for the first time if you never tried it. I also want to quickly say the stealth system in this game is phenomenal. Having the ability to perform a multiple fear takedown, to clear out an entire room in seconds, or picking off guys one by one, increasing your fear meter, giving you the opportunity to then perform the fear takedowns is an addition that makes you feel like a genuine, terrifying threat to the guards. You can actually hear them start to panic over the intercoms. There's even an enemy type in the game that can actually track Batman once you're in detective mode. You know, scouting the area, scouting the threats that you're facing in that particular room, and you can actually fuck with those guys. You see, if you're in detective mode for too long, they can pinpoint exactly where Batman's hiding, and if you end up being in detective mode just long enough for them to actually pinpoint where you're at, and you just so happen to be standing directly behind them, you'll hear the panic in his voice saying that it can't be right, that it could be broken, because this thing says that he's standing directly behind me, only for him to turn around in utter fear and dread, which the story in key moments actually gives you that perspective of Batman being quick and just appearing. Anyways, I just wanted to take this time to talk about Arkham Knight. This is a game I haven't played in years, and I actually am back on my second playthrough, right on my way to 100%ing the game and going through the DLCs, taking down the Mad Hatter, Killer Croc. Anyways, if you ever played the Arkham Knight, let me know down in the comments what's your favorite part of the entire game, or better yet, if you played all of them, which of them is your favorite? It seems like most people that played them all have relatively good things to say. It's not like any of them is completely without their faults, but it's also as if you were to pick any of the main Arkham games made by Rocksteady, you can't really go wrong. Anyways, like always guys, my name is Cynic. Thank you all so much for watching, but until next time, I'll see you all later.
But when I